made to you so special? Nothing. I'm just a kid from Brooklyn. I'm from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn!
Were you scared of it? No, not at all, huh?
Nope. I'm from Brooklyn.
You're from Brooklyn, huh?
I just wanna rap.
Okay guys, Frank Stout, just a guy from Brooklyn, and I'm here to bring you a fresh X-Men franchise ranking, which includes Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, I grew up in the 70s collecting Marvel comics, so I do have some knowledge of the comics, which definitely influences my opinions of all these movies. Now, technically, Deadpool and Wolverine is an MCU movie. However, this is a kind of a weird situation as it is linked to the X-Men franchise. So it's in the MCU, but it's also an X-Men movie. But enough of all that. Let's get through my 2 rules so we can get to this ranking. Rule number 1, spoilers. I plan on spoiling everything, including Deadpool and Wolverine, so heavy spoiler warning. Rule number 2, as always, this is a favorites list, not a best list. So the best way that you can come at me about my list is to show me yours through the comments section. Kicking things off at number 14 at the very bottom is X-Men The Last Stand, came out in 2006. Part 3 is the franchise's worst entry because it's got way too much going on. It's really offensive to the source material, and it almost killed the franchise to the point of no return. After this, they had to do spin-offs and prequels to reboot everything more than once. X2 set up the Phoenix Saga story, but they decided to bypass and go straight to the Dark Phoenix story, making Jean the villain. And maybe that could have all worked. But you've got the mutant cure plotline taking half the movie's focus. You've got a laughable, disrespectful version of the Juggernaut, who, if you didn't know, is not a mutant. He's actually Charles Xavier's stepbrother, and he's too powerful and important to be a side character.
Don't you know who I am? I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!
Director Brett Ratner, to this day, defends this steaming piece of shit.
That is one big pile of shit.
Coming in at number 13 is X-Men Origins Wolverine, came out in 2009. The only reason this isn't dead last is because it's a prequel and it didn't do too much damage going forward. But it's equally, if not worse, than The Last Stand. It starts out with a nice montage with Wolverine and a rebooted Sabretooth fighting together in different wars throughout history. Breaking news, they're brothers now. In the comics, they were, and then they weren't. What can I say? Comics can be friggin' weird. Then it gets into them being recruited by Stryker, and eventually Wolverine quits. He gets a love interest, but soon his past comes back to haunt him. It's all pretty wishy-washy stuff. The effects at times are downright atrocious, especially with Wolverine's claws, and I'm talking PlayStation 2 graphics levels. They finish off the movie with a version of Deadpool, which is a total joke, and not a very funny one at that, which is why Ryan Reynolds lobbied for years to reboot the character. And it also wastes important characters like Blob and Gambit. Coming in at number 12 is The Wolverine, came out in 2013. There are some great stories with Wolverine in feudal Japan in the comics. But of course, the movies give us a half-assed depiction in current day, which is kind of boring at times. Wolverine is lost after the events of The Last Stand. He's having dreams and visions of Jean, which is a little weird as they weren't really an item. He's asked to visit an old friend in Japan, and the next thing you know, he's lost his healing ability, which couldn't come at a worse time, as he must protect the Japanese princess from her own family looking to kill her to take power. It's all okay until we reach the final act, which is clunky as all hell. It's so unremarkable, I'd be okay with never watching it again. Coming in at number 11 is The New Mutants, came out in 2020. Billed as a horror movie of sorts, but of course Fox fails to deliver on that front. The plot is fine, but we want to see mutants fight and at the very least show their powers. And this only has them doing both at the very tail end of the movie. Anya Taylor-Joy is the standout, playing Magic, spelled with a K, but explaining her backstory isn't easy through exposition. You've got young mutants in an asylum being treated for not having control of their powers. And the big twist is, it's not Xavier who's helping them, it's Essex Corp, aka Mr. Sinister, who are cataloging them to exploit them. Which is not really something mainstream audiences are gonna pick up on. You've got a Stranger Things actor and a Game of Thrones one, so I'm guessing they were hoping to cash in on that, but nobody cared as this was delayed several times. In the end, this was technically the last of the Fox X-Men movies, and what can I say? The franchise went out with a big whimper. Coming in at number 10 is X-Men, came out in 2000. For me, the original hasn't aged very well. It suffers from what I call the Matrix effect. Because of the hit movie The Matrix, a lot of movies started sporting monochromatic black leather outfits. You can see this effect in movies like Underworld and Blade 2, which made sense for vampires. And so we get the X-Men in black leather, which even for the year 2000 is pretty stupid. The effects are dated, with Wolverine's claws at times clearly not part of his body. It's also responsible for starting some annoying trends which would last throughout the entire franchise. Number one, the Professor X overpowered problem. Unfortunately, they made Professor X so powerful that if he's connected to Cerebro, could kill every single person on the planet. This poses all types of problems whenever they come out with a movie because they have to disable that so that you can have a movie. If not, he could end the fight with just a thought. They do this in all types of ways, sabotaging Cerebro, controlling him with illusions, a drug that helps him with his back, but it suppresses his mutant power. The other trend is the over-focusing on Wolverine. Look, everybody gets it. Wolverine is a very, very popular character, but this is a full team. It's got a large amount of members. Wolverine is just one member, and unfortunately, they focus so much on Wolverine that everybody else ends up in the background. You might as well call it Wolverine and the X-Men, like there's some sort of band. But hey, there are positives as well. It's historically significant as X-Men, Spider-Man, and Blade laid the groundwork for all the comic book movies to come. And combined with the 90s cartoon, it brought X-Men to the mainstream as they were only popular with comic book nerds like myself. Coming in at number 9 is X-Men Apocalypse, came out in 2016. The sequel to Days of Future Past is a solid entry that knows exactly what it is. Its main flaw is not making Apocalypse a CGI villain a la Thanos, which is a shame because you make this change and improve on some lazy writing, it becomes a contender for best in the franchise. The scene with Apocalypse touching an old tube TV and learning was cringy as all hell. And Jean unleashing the Phoenix Force to save the day is great, but instantly becomes a plot hole in the next film. Speaking of plot holes, all of a sudden, mutants can't use their powers around electricity? That's not just lazy writing. That's just stupid. Mystique has become a legendary hero, which baffles me to no end. But despite all this, I really like the characters and the story, which takes place in the 80s, my favorite decade. Apocalypse and his four horsemen are pretty badass, and Michael Fassbender continues to be the heart of this new timeline with a performance that makes everyone else look like stage performers at your local park. Coming in at number 8 is Dark Phoenix, came out in 2019. Although not well received, it's a way better attempt at the Dark Phoenix saga, which will always be troublesome because they always try to skip the Phoenix Saga, which has a lot of outer space events. Maybe something you could do in the MCU using Guardians. It has other problems, but the mutant battles are some of the best in the franchise. It then expands into other fights between humans, mutants, and aliens. What can I say? This movie has more fights than a reunion episode of Baddies, which I gotta say, those security guys are the hardest working men in the business. I put that on my mama. Professor X is pretty much a dick for 2/3 of the film, and Mystique once again is out of place being team leader. It's obvious that J-Law doesn't even want to be there, so Blink and she is gone. There were some published reshoots for the finale, and you can feel them all, but it was also reported that the aliens were supposed to be the Skrulls, but later changed to the Dabari, which are more connected to Phoenix. But nobody's gonna care at this point, as Disney acquiring Fox was already old news. Coming in at number 7 is Deadpool 2, came out in 2018. The sequel tries to outdo the original in every way. Bigger budget, more characters, crazier story, and the biggest being more jokes. I'm talking let's do 10 to 20 jokes every 5 minutes and see what sticks. So the movie feels all over the place compared to the underdog original that shocked the world. And let's face it, it's just not as good. But before I continue to pour more ice cold water on this orgy, I gotta say, I still love it. The assembling of X-Force in the middle act is absolutely hilarious. Casting Josh Brolin as Cable is genius, and the jokes pretty much write themselves. And Domino, played by the smoking hot Zazie Beetz, is something that I didn't know I needed in my life. I'm not a fan of this version of the Juggernaut, but it is more accurate to be fair. And the baby legs Deadpool scene is something that'll make me laugh nonstop till the day that I die. Coming in at number 6 is X-Men First Class, came out in 2011. I saw this opening day almost in protest because this is in no way, shape, or form X-Men's First Class. This is X-Men's First Class, and I dream of this version someday being in a movie. But this reboot, prequel, 60s Bond-esque spy thriller with the origin stories for Professor X and Magneto really won me over. They used some very niche characters and had the bougie sex club known as the Hellfire Club as villains, led by Sebastian Shaw, played by the always on point Kevin Bacon. I love Jennifer Lawrence. She is one of my favorite actresses. She is so down to earth.
Very. I'll take both. Somebody, as a joke, bought me a bunch of butt plugs. It's a long story. It's a really long.
As much as I love her, she is not only miscast to play Mystique, Mystique herself was misrepresented as Charles' adopted sister. Speaking of miscast, do you understand how much of a sexy, seductive character Emma Frost, aka the White Queen, is? January Jones was a complete letdown. But all these fails are made up by James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender playing Xavier and Magneto. Their journeys are everything, and it's a perfect foundation going forward. Coming in at number 5 is Deadpool and Wolverine, came out in 2024. The MCU's love letter for the Fox X-Men universe is a total blast, with Deadpool teaming up with the worst Wolverine variant to stop the TVA from eliminating his universe. The story is mediocre at best, but the chemistry between Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman is undeniable. I've spoken Deadpool and Wolverine in multiple rankings and always kept thoughts spoiler-free. But it's time to pop the cap off on this soda bottle. The movie relies on fan service cameo porn with the likes of the Human Torch, Elektra, X-23, Gambit played by Channing Tatum, and the mother of all mothers of cameos, Wesley Snipes as Blade, which sent a shiver down my spine the first time I saw it. The soundtrack perfectly kicks off moments throughout, despite me wishing it had a little less Madonna. Jackman gives us another portrayal of a broken Wolverine, and like always, he nails it. He finally dons the cowl, which gives fans what they've been waiting for decades. It's not a perfect movie. The writing is poor at times. Important characters like Cable, Fire Fist, and Domino are conspicuously missing. Vanessa broke with him after he saves her life because why? And the end is meh at best. Despite all that, it's very rewatchable, and yeah, it's got Blade. Coming in at number 4 is Logan, came out in 2017. There's no denying how big the movie Logan is. It transcends comic book films, it's deep and it's dark, and it has great performances. Hugh Jackman outdoes himself in this almost post-apocalyptic story where mutants have mostly died off and Logan is working as a limousine driver, saving up to buy a boat so he can escape with a senior citizen Charles Xavier suffering from cognitive decline. And Patrick Stewart absolutely nails it. The way I see it, this is the ending to the original trilogy, and there is some dialogue here to support that theory.
They're waiting for you at the Statue of Liberty.
Statue of Liberty was a long time ago, Charles, a long time.
Why is that important to me? Because if not, it shits all over the ending of Days of Future Past. The rated R content is great with the more extreme violence, and it's kind of a road movie with Logan, aka Wolverine, having to save little X-23 from being terminated by her creators. To be honest, it's a little dreary for my taste. I mean, come on, everybody and their mother dies in this. Not exactly uplifting for the spirit, if you know what I mean. And coming in at number 3 is X-Men Days of Future Past, came out in 2014. While First Class starts things over, this time travel story reboots everything completely, giving audiences a fresh new timeline without the shackles of the original trilogy hanging over its head. This was a huge deal for me because I love the comic book version, which was a pretty big deal at that time. So big that the 90s cartoon even did it, using Bishop instead of Kitty Pryde as the chosen one to go back in time to prevent Sentinels from taking over the Earth. But of course, here they use Wolverine.
It's a fucking surprise.
This also had the added bonus of having casts from both versions in one movie. Jennifer Lawrence probably does her best work as Mystique, and McAvoy and Fassbender continue to do what they do. The highlight was introducing Quicksilver, which was also introduced in the Avengers Age of Ultron due to a loophole, as he and his sister Wanda, aka the Scarlet Witch, were reluctant X-Men villains in the comics, but eventually joined the Avengers down the line. The main story helps the audience catch up with everyone from First Class, now in the 70s, while in the future, the remaining mutants make their last stand against powerful Nimrod-level Sentinels. Very dark stuff, which is what I like to see. And coming in at number 2, my runner-up is Deadpool. Came out in 2016. Ryan Reynolds cleverly leaked some footage, and 20th Century Fox was forced to act. But they gave him a very small budget, and lo and behold, the little movie that could made straight bank at the box office. I've been a fan of Reynolds' shtick since films like Waiting, and even stinkers like Blade Trinity. So this is totally my bag, baby. While Logan was rated R for violence and maybe a few curse words, this checks off all the naughty boxes, including a strap-on scene, a strip club scene where Stan Lee does one of his famous cameos, and Deadpool cranking off one to a stuffed animal unicorn. As far as the Deadpool movies go, it's got the best story, the tightest script. It's truly a perfect storm. The full CGI Colossus, complete with Russian accent, and the snarky Negasonic teenage warhead were perfect additions for the merc with the mouth. Morena Baccarin as Vanessa was the perfect dirty love interest, and it's a complete reboot origin story that makes the X-Men Origins Wolverine version a complete turd. And my number one X-Men movie of the franchise is X2 X-Men United, came out in 2003. Yes, the over 20-year-old sequel is, for me, the quintessential X-Men film. It gets away from those terrible black leather outfits as best as it can. It expands on the characters and the lore. It goes deeper into the mutant hatred and confusion. It delves into Wolverine's backstory without giving it all away. It adds interesting new mutant characters like Nightcrawler, Pyro, and Lady Deathstrike. It continues the love triangle between Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Logan. It kind of mixes it all up with both X-Men and Brotherhood members teaming up to take on new threat William Stryker, who's captured Xavier and is looking to end the mutant problem as he sees it. And of course, it sets everything up for the arrival of the Phoenix. I can still remember leaving the theater brimming with excitement as the possibilities were endless. Have we seen the last of the X-Men? Absolutely not. They're showing up in Avengers Doomsday. They're probably going to end up in Secret Wars as well. And the MCU is already casting their own version of the X-Men. So we got a lot going forward, but I hope nobody forgets these great movies of the past. They did a lot of things that didn't work, but I will say that these X-Men movies, they had heart and they did a lot of things that sometimes the MCU has trouble doing. As from the BK, from the city that never sleeps.
See my face in
Peace,
lights,
baby.
on my name on marquees found down on Broadway. Even if it ain't all it seems, I got a pocket full of dreams, baby. I'm from New York.